Good morning. You are very welcome to our first University for All summer school. My name is Fiona Sweeney and I'm Head of Outreach, Engagement and Transition here in Access and Lifelong Learning. And I am joined by my colleagues in welcoming you today. It is wonderful to have so many of you joining us. As well as being our first summer school, it is also our first virtual summer school. And I have included a photo of our universally designed and welcoming office so that you will recognise our centre when we do return to campus. We have a jam-packed session to showcase UCD as a university where all students belong and feel welcome. Before we get started, a few practicalities. For new Zoom users, you will see that there is a Q&A facility at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to ask questions during the session. I would ask all panelists to mute and to turn off their mic for individual speakers. Also, please note that we're recording the session. So let's get started. I'm delighted to introduce you to the Director of Access and Lifelong Learning, Dr. Anna Kelly, to give you an overview of the UCD's University for All initiative. Anna?
Thank you, Fiona. Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see so many of you here today. I'm assured by Enya and by Enya and Fiona that we have almost 300 people logged on this morning, and there may be more now. So I'm absolutely thrilled, and you're very, very welcome to our first virtual summer school. As Fiona said, I'm here to tell you the story about UCD, the University for All. But first of all, let me introduce my colleagues to you. Can I have the next slide, Enya, there, please? The slide is the All team. And the team is made up of two really, really important components. They're the staff and they're what we call the access leaders. And I'll get to those in a moment. So on the slide in front of you, you see images of Enya and Barbara and Catherine and Emily and Ethna and Colin and Kathy and Enya and Fiona again, whom you've just met, and Gillian. And on the next slide, Enya, we will see the remainder of our colleagues in Access and Lifelong Learning. So as you come onto the campus, and hopefully you will in the not too distant future, you'll meet all these wonderful colleagues, Irina and Jenny and Julie and Kim and Paolo and Michelle and Lorna and Lisa, Sue, Thomond, Tina and Tom. So there's the staff that work in UCD Access and Lifelong Learning, and they are only dying to meet you in person. But the group that is also dying to meet you and will meet you today are our wonderful access leaders. We have some access leaders here. We have a lot of access leaders. These are all access students who have come in the various routes and are proud to be part of our UCD community. And they will talk to you today, and Grace, whom you see in the center of your screen, will lead a discussion where you will get to talk to the real people, the students. So we have Owen, and we have Favor, and we have Larissa, and we have Alani, and Jaffer, and Esme, and Jade, and Maria, and Gareth. So all those students and plenty of others have decided to become access leaders, as well as conducting their studies and doing all of the wonderful things and taking all the wonderful opportunities that you have when you visit UCD. So that's the team that's involved in UCD becoming a university for all. Can I have the next slide, Enya, please? So on this slide, you see an image of a student, and that student is called Amy Hassett. And Amy was at the launch. She spoke at an event almost 3 years ago, and she said a number of really, really important things. But one of the points that she noted was that until all universities are as diverse as the communities we live in, our work is not done. That's what she said to us as a university. Now, Amy has gone on, she came in, she did her undergraduate science degree, and she graduated with a degree in physiology, and she's now a master's student in Rotterdam. But during her time with UCD, as well as studying, she also was an access leader, just like some of the access leaders that you'll meet today. So she said very clearly we had to become diverse. So the next slide, Anya, is an image of the match is lighting up the world, or pioneering. We are pioneering the University for All concept. And that concept was launched back at the end of 2017 by the Minister for Higher Education, and many of you I'm sure will recognise her, Mary Mitchell-O'Connor. The gentleman in the centre is Professor Mark Rogers, who is the Deputy President and Registrar, and yours truly is beside him. On that occasion, that was a really, really important occasion. We launched University for All. We are the first and we are the only university in Ireland, the only university who has built and pioneered this notion that a university should be diverse. It should represent the profile that you see in everyday society, in everyday schools, in everyday further education colleges, in everyday shopping centres. It should represent the diversity that is the diversity of Ireland. So UCD is a university for all, and as I said, we launched it in 2017. Next slide, Enya, please. So what does that mean to be a diverse university? The slide in front of you shows a number of important pieces. If you look at the graph initially, you see a big blue or purple block, and that represents the totality of our undergraduate student population. And underneath that, you see a black line. Underneath that, you will see a yellow box. And the yellow box represents the totality of our diverse students. So we have an objective that we will have 33% of our students will be diverse, and we have almost reached that. We have 32%. And on your left-hand side of your screen, you will see some facts in there. There are almost 34,000 students, and of that, there are 17,000 undergraduate students. And almost a third of them come from diverse backgrounds. So almost a third of them are students with disabilities, students from low-income households, students who are mature and come to education later, students from ethnic minorities, students who are lone parents, and students who are refugees or asylum seekers, as we call those students. They're sanctuary students. And in order to address the inequalities in society, we have 7 additional entry routes, and later on in the discussion, Fiona will introduce a little piece of video. But why we have put in place 7 additional routes is because we recognise that higher education is that there are inequalities in getting into higher education. So in order to address the inequalities, we created 7 different entry routes to ensure that we have a diversity of student population. And we have Cortram na Féine. It's an Irish phrase. It's the largest scholarship program in the country. Cortram na Féine means justice and equality, and that's a motto of UCD. I mean, in common parlance, Cortram na Féine means levelling the playing field, because we recognise the financial hardship that going to college places on many families. So in terms of the next slide, Enya, I keep getting confused. We have 2 people who have very similar names. So what is a university for all? How will you recognise a university for all? Well, first of all, access in UCD is everyone's business. It's not just the people you'll meet in access and lifelong learning. Many of you probably have met some people in access and lifelong learning. You may have met Anya, you may have met Enya, you may have met Lorna, you may indeed have met Fiona. But in UCD, access is everybody's business, and everybody has a role in creating a welcoming, inclusive campus. So access is more than just entry. In some colleges, there's a lot of emphasis on entry, but in UCD, it's more than just entry. Of course, the entry routes are important so that you can realize your ambition and dream to get a place in UCD. But once you get here, it's ensuring that you participate fully, that you have all the successes that every student has, that you get an opportunity to thrive and to realize your ambitions. So when you encounter the university, no matter what part of it you encounter, whether you're going to lectures, you're doing an assessment, you're trying to gain entry to a campus building, you're trying to figure out the new technology and trying to get used to new technology, as we all are these days, or trying to get support in order to write an essay or financial supports. No matter what aspect of the university you encounter, you will find that the staff are ready, willing and able and expecting you and expecting adversity, because we are a diverse institution. So in some corners of the country, there may be a myth that there's a traditional UCD student, and we are bursting that myth open. We're dispelling that myth. UCD is a university that is diverse. It's a university for all. Can I have the next slide, Enya? And the next slide, breaking news, it's live. UCD is a university for all. Our access leaders, when you hear them, you will see that, yes, it is a diverse university. So I want you to take that message away from this discussion here today, that UCD is for everybody, and it's for you and every person that is part of this summer school this morning in every corner of the country. UCD is for everybody. And when we can have the final slide, we are trying to convey that message of belonging, and Fiona talked about you belonging. The staff in UCD, the access leaders, we are all trying to get the message across that you belong in UCD, that you belong here, you're welcome here. We are delighted. We say, yay, you are here. We say, Cage Mille Falte, 100,000 welcomes to you. And in the center of that image, you see the image of Welcome to UCD. That was last year's welcome program. And all of those people in that picture are dressed in the yellow sweatshirts. They are our access leaders. They are access students who are the role models, who are the people who've gone before, who are the people who can convince you more than anybody that UCD is for you. So I hope you enjoy today and you get more information, and more importantly, that you truly believe that UCD is a university for all. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Anna. That was a very inspiring introduction. Next, I would like you to meet one of our C1B1 role models, Billy Sines. Billy is a graduate of UCD's University Access course. By successfully completing this access course, Billy was able to get guaranteed entry into the BA in Archaeology, from which he graduated in 2019. Billy is now studying for a Master's in Experimental Archaeology and Material Culture. Over to you, Billy.
Thanks, Fiona, and thanks for the whole team for asking me to participate. I was asked to share my experience as a UCD Access student and some of the things that helped me in becoming a full-time student in UCD. And as Anna mentioned, the kind of challenge laid down by Amy Hassett to make a diverse campus and to represent the diversity that we see in our communities within the campus. I think that was one of the first things that struck me. I came to Access in 2015, completed in 2016. I had just been made unemployed after a brain seizure, and I was working in a warehouse. So I drove forklifts, I drove to and from work, and obviously that impacted that. And I had always been in kind of low-level jobs, entry level. So when things like the economic crisis happened, you're the last one in, the first one out, or you're easily disposable. And it was frustrating. I thought about going to college before, but like I'm sure some of you may feel, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do if it hasn't been introduced to you at a young age, which it wasn't to me. I finished school with no GCSEs in the UK. So I had no kind of formal education, and the idea of CAO forms and applications and stuff like that just seemed like a huge barrier that I couldn't get into. So after a bit of encouragement, and I've told the story before at some of these other events, a previous Access student had offered to bring me in for a cup of coffee and a brief introduction to Thoman Coogan, which ended up somehow, after 30 minutes, I was signed up for the Access course for that year. And it's kind of easy to feel, you know, it's only happening to you. It's everybody that's kind of not able to get into university. Everybody else is getting the opportunities maybe, but it's, you know, life is getting in the way and blocking things for you. But the first day in the classroom, the diversity of age ranges, socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultures, just to see that life just didn't get in the way for me. It gets in the way for everybody. But it also gave the confidence that just because, as I said, I joined as a mature student, but just because I didn't follow that linear trajectory of primary school, secondary school, and moving on to third level education, that, to sound cliche, the university of life and that experience that you get, you know, it makes us a little bit skeptical. We think a little bit critically about things. The confidence that that is exactly what you need going into third level education. You want to ask questions of the things that are being presented to you, and being able to kind of absorb something. We're bombarded with news and social media and all this kind of information on a daily basis. And to be able to just kind of look at it and think, well, I don't agree with that. And being able to frame that in an academic sense, which the study skills in UCD Access was brilliant. It introduced so many concepts that just made us feel that it wasn't us kind of on our own floating out there without a clue what to do. As I said, regardless of what background we had, we all had those same fears and those same doubts. And the Access course just helped us to kind of realize that we are able to do this. And like Anna said, there's not a traditional UCD student. We do belong on the campus. We are a part of the UCD community. And it's something that you do find when you move into the undergraduate program, that it's not treated any different. You might feel that if you're in the Access course or in any of the programs there, that once you move in as a full-time student, that you might be treated differently, you know, regardless of the barrier to learning that you had. And I took archaeology to fabulous Maureen Doyle, who takes archaeology for the Access course. I found it wasn't just in that the whole of the School of Archaeology was the same. And from speaking to other classmates that went on to do degrees in social science, history, English, none of them found that they was treated any differently to any of the other students, regardless of the way that they came in or any scholarships or supports that they needed. Everybody was given that opportunity to do their best and achieve what they wanted to do. And I suppose that opportunity is something that I've continued to feel, that taking the confidence from the Access course, I've been introduced to so many academics and been given so many opportunities to take part in archaeological excavations across the country. They've been featured on RTE. I've dug in medieval Dublin, you know, things that I would never have expected to do in 2015 when I was sitting there thinking what I was going to do. As I say, it's the name Access is fitting because for me, never being introduced, I'd never been on a college campus before I had been brought in for that cup of coffee. And so the idea of even joining a college just seemed impossible. You know, I didn't have any qualifications. They'd just laugh my application out. They wouldn't entertain it at all. But as I said, Access really did just make it as simple as walking onto campus for a cup of coffee and coming out and starting me on a journey that has led to me winning awards, gaining scholarships, having the confidence to go on to postgraduate studies, studying for an experimental archaeology degree. And again, it's this idea that there's a traditional student or a younger student, you know, the people that come straight from the Leaving Cert, they may have better technical skills than you. They maybe a bit more on the ball. You may have had a huge absence from education. But being in that classroom and in that environment, which I'm not too sure how that works in the current circumstances, but being around other people, regardless of their ages, as I say, the backgrounds that they come from, you learn so much from your other students. I suppose that's one of the biggest things that we miss towards the end of the semester, and all the classmates are the same, just having that interaction from people that you wouldn't have normally met. The people that I've met, the things that I'm doing, and the kind of activities that I'm able to participate in are things that I would never have even considered, let alone think that I didn't have the opportunity or didn't have the resources to do. So all of that, I always thank Access for that. I found in first year, after I'd finished the Access course, that I was still dropping in and still saying hello. The centre is just across from the library, so you kind of go in, you've just been given a huge assignment and you've got a massive reading list. You kind of walk in and say hello to a few friendly faces and things just feel a little bit calmer again. But as my undergraduate continued, I did find that I was going less into Access, but I was still taking the skills and the confidence that I gained through the course. And it was a complete eye-opener. As I said, these were things that I'd maybe always thought that I was better than the jobs that I was doing, but because I had missed the opportunity to gain that education, I suppose, when I was supposed to, after I had finished secondary school, that it was something that I would never have. With a wife and 3 kids, it always felt selfish to kind of take that time out. This time, things were taken out of my hands slightly with the medical reasons. And my tutor in study skills, Barbara Fleming, mentioned about this. You know, it may seem selfish at times to be sitting there and writing essays when everybody else is out of work or trying to kind of run the household and things like that. But the benefits that you gain, I have in a completely different position to where I was in 2015, from not knowing what I was going to do, not being able to drive, not being able to do the duties that I had qualifications for, to now being in a position where I'm being asked to participate in excavations, being asked to participate in collaborative works. As I said, producing a thesis, something that I would never have dreamed of, especially at 17, 18, when I was in secondary school. That's certainly something I never envisaged doing. And in 2015, I still wasn't sure. But yeah, without Access, I don't think I would have done as well. I know from first year, the difference between some of the students that come in straight through the CAO and the ones that had done the year Access course. We just felt as if we kind of knew what we was doing. It was a smaller introduction. We had 1 module per semester, but it was enough to kind of realize how the mechanics of UCD works. Kind of takes away all of that complexity. And while some things don't always work perfectly, we have the skills that we need to do to submit an essay, to access the library, to find our way around campus. Just the sheer size of the campus sometimes can be overwhelming if you're not too sure where you're going. But we found with the kind of gentle introduction that we had through Access, it got us into the swing of things. We knew what we was doing, and we was giving advice to other students in first year. And it's all through that confidence, just from having the general introduction, the fabulous staff at UCD All. I keep calling it Access. I think when I was first introduced to, I think it was the old Access Centre. But any help that I've ever needed, I could walk in, speak to somebody, even if it's just, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and you just need to take that few minutes just to talk to a friendly face. It can make a huge difference. Just to know that you've got that support there behind you. I don't want to go on for too long, but yeah, as I said, if anybody is feeling that they don't necessarily belong, that they're not supposed to be in college, that they're there's too many barriers. As I say, access is the appropriate name. It breaks down those barriers and opens those doors for learning. Thank you.
Good. Billy, thank you very much. That was brilliant. Billy entered UCD by using one of our 7 admission pathways. Did you know that over a quarter of our first year places are ring-fenced for these entry pathways? Now, let us hear from some other students who have used these entry routes to enter UCD.
I'd always wanted to study law, and I came into UCD through the Access program, which guarantees a place in law, social science and arts if you get over 60%. There's a great sense of community in UCD and the staff are very approachable. If life has stopped you from fulfilling your dreams, it's never too late. I'm in my 3rd year of law and thoroughly enjoying it while fulfilling my dreams and looking forward to my career. I urge you to be brave and take the next step to becoming an adult learner.
I came into UCD through the HEAR scheme on reduced points. I applied for this through the CAO application. Part of this meant attending the HEAR orientation, where you stay on campus for a few days and meet other people from your programme. It was a great experience and made settling into college a lot easier. Now I'm in the final year of my BA and I've enjoyed every minute of it. It hasn't always been easy, but with support from the Access Centre and everyone in UCD, I've managed to persevere and I hope to be accepted into a master's programme after I graduate this year.
I applied to UCD through the DARE pathway as part of my CAO application. I had to fill out a form outlining my disability, provide evidence of my disability, and my school had to fill out an educational impact statement. When I got to UCD, the Access and Lifelong Learning Centre were able to give me the extra supports that I needed, such as a personal needs assistant to help me in my labs and various workshops on the different aspects of college life. This extra support gave me the skills that I needed to settle into college life. I'm in my 3rd year now and I enjoy every second of it.
After a mistake in my Leaving Cert results, I chose to enrol in a Business Studies VTech course. When my results were rechecked, it turned out I had the requirements I needed, but I chose to stick out the VTech course till the end anyway. It was the best decision I could have made. I received 8 distinctions in my QQI certificate and I used that to enrol into commerce here in UCD through the CAO. I'm in my 2nd year now and I'm loving every minute of it. There are great facilities and hundreds of societies, so there really is something for everyone.
I studied archaeology about 40 years ago and I developed a lifelong interest in the subject. Since retiring, I've been able to engage with the Open Learning programme here in UCD. This has given me access to hundreds of undergraduate modules. It's a simple online registration process. Not only does it give you access to world-class teaching, but it also gives you an opportunity to engage with the practical aspects of the subject through research excavations and engagement here with the Experimental Centre in UCD.
After my Leaving Cert, I started to study science, but after 2 years I decided it wasn't for me. I had always wanted to study midwifery, but I didn't have the points. At 26, I decided to give it a go. I applied to the CAO using the mature student codes, and now I'm in my 2nd year of midwifery and I absolutely love it. 7 out of 22 in my class are mature students, and that really put me at ease from the beginning. The supports for mature students in UCD are fantastic, from the student advisors to the social events. I can't praise them enough for helping me realise my potential.
What brings me to UCD Lifelong Learning? Mostly it's for the joy of learning, just for its own sake, without considerations for career or stress of exams and that. I'm a civil engineer, so I choose courses that have nothing to do with that, like philosophy, art appreciation, history, psychology, explorations of life and how best to live it. I apply online and there's a great range of courses and they've all been very good. So that's why I do it really for the delight of it.
Getting into UCD is one thing, but we want to ensure that students feel welcome, that they belong and flourish in their college life. I'm going to hand you over now to our panel of access leaders. Esme Sheridan, Jade Foran and Gareth Sullivan Kelly, led by Senior Access Leader Grace, to tell you about their UCD experience and the supports that they have found helpful. Over to you, Grace.
Hi, good morning. Oh, afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grace Oladipo, and I am one of the senior access leaders here at UCD, and it is so lovely to speak to you all. I hope you are doing great. So I studied law. I'm in final year, so I'm practically done, and it's been great. But so we wanted you guys to get a feel for what I guess the Access Center does for students, by hearing from other students. So I'm going to introduce my panelists and ask them to introduce themselves in a second as well. So I've got Gareth, Jade, and Esme here, who are just going to share their experiences with you guys as well. But don't forget that if you have any questions, you can just pop them in the question and answer chat box below. So Gareth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Gareth. I'm 24 and I'm studying commerce, and I'm currently heading into final year.
Amazing. And Jade?
So I'm going into third year business and law, and
Great. And Esme?
I'm in second year as well, going into third year, and I study sociology and geography.
Amazing, amazing. So I guess the first question I have for you guys is, how did you decide which college course to choose? I think there are a lot of students here who are literally, it's probably dawning on them that like they might be choosing a course for 4 years or a year or so. So how did you guys make up your minds to decide what courses to do? I'll start with you, Jade.
So I really loved accountancy in secondary school, but I didn't want to like limit myself by just doing like an accountancy course. So I thought like the commerce program and stuff, that would be really good. So I was like, I'll do business, and that way I can still specialize in accountancy at the end of the like degree. So that's why I picked like the business part of like business and law. But then during the Future You Summer School, which is run by the Access Centre, I got to do it in fifth year, and I got to do law, which at the time I was so angry because I was like, I have no interest in law. I was like, it's awful. I have no interest. I don't want to be doing this. But I actually loved it so much, and I ended up like winning like the law student and stuff like that. And it was just the best thing ever. So I kind of wanted to get like a bit of mix for my degree. I could kind of choose stuff like that. So.
That's so amazing. I think it's so important to do something that you're interested in, definitely. Gareth, how about yourself? How did you decide what course to choose?
So I remember in secondary school I wanted to actually do accounting, and I took the accounting thing in secondary school, and actually I hated it so much. I hated it. I was like, right, it's not for me. So I went and I worked in the business world for a few years, and I actually decided that business was for me. So I then decided, right, I'll do commerce because it's a general spread of business. You're not limited to say just accounting. You'll do a range of modules in first and second year, and then in your final year you can specialize in whichever area you find the most interesting.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I think the variety really stands out to me with what you're talking about. And Esme, how about yourself?
Well, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Like I had the points and I liked school, but I kind of didn't really have any idea. But I kind of had some idea that I always wanted to work with people, and but I also wanted to be kind of logical. So I picked sociology and geography because it's based on societies, and I thought they went well together. And I kind of focused on my abilities, where they lay, what I enjoyed. And also, just like my abilities and what kind of I thought would suit me. Because at the end of the day, I knew I'd be doing it for 4 years, and I'd still have to study and motivate myself. So it's important to think about, I'm going to have to do the everyday. So I have to have some ability and enjoyment in it as well. So. Yeah.
No, 100%. I think one of the most important things when you are choosing your course is to do something you're interested in, something you'd actually enjoy researching about. So then I'll move into the next question. And I think this is very important for students who are coming in. Like, what supports did you receive from the Access Centre and UCD? I'll start with you, Esme.
Well, mainly there's so many supports available. So I've also used the writing centre outside by the library, but in terms of all, I've used the OT service, which was a really big help to me when I first came in, because I was kind of anxious about the whole friend thing, and it just kind of put me at ease to have someone to kind of talk to know that I wasn't on my own. And in general, the access leader thing has been really helpful for me. It's made me grow up a lot, and it's given me that kind of confidence. Just being, I was kind of a bit unsure about committing to things and a bit for the first year, and once I did the access thing, that was a huge help to me, because it gave me a lot of confidence, and just the welcome programs in general, because you get to meet people before you come in. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the welcome program can be such a big one because you meet people who are also in your course. Kind of gives you friends before like university starts. And Gareth, what about you? What support have you received?
Oh, some of the supports I received, I haven't been in school, I wasn't for 6 years. So I remember coming in and I was like, the thoughts of having to do maths and having to write an essay, having not done them for years. And I remember being like, how am I going to do this? So on campus, there's like a writing centre, and you can bring in an essay you've wrote and they'll help you improve your writing style. Same with the math support centre. If you're stuck on a question, they can help explain it to you. The financial burden I thought was going to be a big issue. So there is scholarships like the Coram Nathaniel scholarship. I'll probably pronounce that wrong. But there's also counselling services. There's an on-campus doctor. There's so much support on campus you can use.
That's so great. And Jade, what about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I second the Access Here welcome program. That was so good just to get like to meet people from like a similar background and stuff like that. 100%, that was the best thing, because you get to know people, especially when not a lot of people were like coming from your school to like the same college like UCD. Definitely the Coram Nathaniel scholarship, 100%. I was able to like achieve that like through like the Future You program, which is run in certain schools by the Access Centre. And then my last support would probably be, they have academic workshops on every Wednesday, and they teach you like how to reference and stuff like that, just like how to take notes, just small tips that like you don't really get taught in college and stuff like that. So it's really handy just to kind of go drop in. They're online if you can't even drop in. So definitely there's so much support, and as Gareth and Esme have already said, like, so definitely.
No, that's so amazing. I think as well, like the academic workshops are completely free. So like you can pop in when you need them, and like someone will go through whatever you need to learn from those sessions. And I think as well, just to add on to that, we have access leaders. So like I said, we're all access leaders here, and we're basically students who have gone through the routes that you have gone through. And we can literally share our stories, our experiences, our practical tips for getting around UCD, and so on and so forth. And that's a massive support for other students who are coming in through the access programs. So just on that, we all know that UCD is a big campus. It's very exciting. But how did you guys make friends? And I'll start with you, Gareth.
So I remember I was so nervous. I'm very, I'd be introverted. I'd like to keep to myself. I wouldn't be outspoken kind of. So I remember on my welcome day, before they done the big welcome they do now, they had it split. So you had like the QQI FETAC, so like the PLC day, the here, the there. So on my FETAC day, the PLC, I made friends through that. So they were studying different courses. I'm still friends with them to this day. But I do remember we had different schedules. So I did find that a little bit hard to kind of maintain the friendship. So I then decided to go through societies. I remember thinking, this is societies, like that's nerve-wracking joining and having to introduce yourself. And I remember I joined like the Mature Society and the Film Society and so many societies, and I made some friends from that. And then with them friends, they introduced me to more friends. And then my course obviously has a lot of group work, so you'd make friends through that aspect of it as well. And I was nervous for no reason to make friends.
That's so amazing. I think the societies are such a massive way of getting to know people. I think UCD has over 70 societies. There's literally something for everyone. So that's such a great way. And then Jade, how did you make friends?
Yeah, definitely the Access program at the start. That's where I kind of made my first few friends. But again, they were from law, where I was business and law, so we kind of didn't have similar timetable. I made friends through my peer mentor group, which is what the college organises at the start. But I actually just didn't really kind of stick with them. I just kind of just didn't really vibe with them that well. So I kind of had to try to find other friends. So I found like if you kind of like definitely through group work and tutorials, you definitely get to meet loads of other people through then, and you kind of find your own eventually. Like, just don't be worried if it doesn't happen straight away. You know, first group of friends might not be your friends for life, but that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. I remember my first friend was not like the friend I stuck with for like the whole thing, which is interesting. You just meet so many great people in UCD anyway. And then Esme, I'm actually going to ask you a different question.
Oh, okay.
Exciting. What advice would you give to a student who is thinking about coming to UCD?
I think my main advice is don't try and build things up like, oh, I have to do this and I have to be perfect. Like, sometimes it is hard at first to get the balance between.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the societies didn't work with my timetable, but it's good to try things. Keep on trial and error. Just because you left that one in first year doesn't mean you can't join something later or you won't meet more friends later. And when I first came in, after the buzz of the first 2 weeks and it's all fun, like I did meet people at the welcome, and I get on with my peer groups that a lot of them are my friends, but I've even met people this year, and yeah, I think the main thing was I kind of was like, oh, I have to do this society, and I meeting people, and I kind of built it up, and I found by the time I got to after the second week, I was really upset, like fine to going in, but it really, so don't stress yourself out too much, and if you need help, ask for it. Like, in school, I think you get into your head like, oh, because it is smaller, like everyone's looking at me and stuff, but it's so big that nobody would even notice. Like, you can do it very privately in university, so just don't be afraid and take the opportunities. Like, don't say I'm not, oh, because I'm not good. Don't bring your past in, like, I'm not good, I won't go for that. Go for the opportunities that you're able to go for, and don't worry about what you're not able to do. That's probably my main advice.
That's such amazing advice. I cannot stress how much you need to ask for help. Like, there's always people ready to help you, but you need to ask for it. You need to put your hand up and say, okay, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that, and you'll actually get the help that you need. And if the person you ask doesn't know how to give you that help, they'll send you to someone who does. So it's really important to just ask for the help. But Gareth, I'm going to give you the same question. What advice would you give to a student who's thinking about coming to UCD?
I've talked about this a bit, and there's so much advice to give, but if I had to give it in one thing, I would say that lecturers are these very understanding people. They aren't people that you can't go to with any issues. Like, if you're struggling with something, say you have a bereavement in your family or something, unlike secondary school where it's tough, it doesn't matter, I found that they're very understanding. They're very like, look, we understand you can take more time on your assignment if needs be. They're not like these people that are like, oh, well, you can't contact me, you know, it's up to you to do everything. I did find that a lot of it is, it's self-learning. Like, it's up to you to put in the work. Lecturers don't mind if you're there or not. They will still carry on their lecture no matter what. So it's up to you to kind of do it all yourself and to motivate yourself to do your own work. That it's a completely different aspect of learning than secondary school. Lecturers want your opinions. They don't want you to learn something off by heart. They want your opinion on something. And it's not going to be wrong because it's your opinion. They just want to hear that opinion on you. And it's like a marathon kind of university. It's about taking it gradually over the 4 years instead of just compiling it into them last 3 weeks before exams.
Yeah, 100%. I think you have to take it one day at a time, one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself, because literally 4 years is a long time. But Jade, I'm going to ask you this. What's one thing you wish you knew about UCD before you started?
I suppose it would be that like you're not always going to be with a group of people all the time like you are in secondary school. College is a place that like you're there for yourself and it's very independent, and like yeah, you'll have friends and stuff like that, but it's up to you, kind of what Gareth said already, it's up to you kind of to just focus on yourself and do things for yourself. Like it's not, don't be doing stuff just because your friend's doing them or something like that, or like don't be kind of not doing something because your friend isn't doing it. Like it's you have to put what you put in, you kind of get back out. And college, I maybe stepped back a bit in first year because I kind of was like, oh, I don't have friends doing this and stuff like that, where like I should have put myself forward and just gone for stuff that I really, really wanted to do, but I just couldn't. I just didn't, because I just was like, oh, my friends aren't doing it. So definitely just be more independent and learn to kind of grow within yourself, you know. Don't rely on others, you know. You'll be waiting for ages if you're waiting on everyone else, you know. So that would be
that is solid advice. And just one final question for you guys, and I'm really excited about this one. What has been your biggest achievement in UCD to date? There's like a moment, like a dramatic pause there. I'm gonna ask Esme first.
Well, I suppose my biggest achievement in UCD that I can think of was kind of my first big access thing that I did within a group of 4 or 5. We planned kind of an event at the start of the UCD year, I guess, to introduce like the new students. And for me, it was a big step because while like for the first year I was kind of quiet, like Jade said about, I struggled with that kind of like you are on your own a lot, and I did feel lonely. And it was the first kind of time I took a step and be like, I have to do this in my, like when I took on the access leader. And I think I was always afraid of commitment, that I'd let people down, like, oh, if I can't, and what will I do? Like I always used to panic, but going for that gave me such confidence. And I used to be really kind of awkward and all that, like an awkward teenager coming in. But I've really grown up in this past year, and because of those opportunities. And that was my first step, where I was kind of like going for things then. And now I even wouldn't have applied for internship that I have for 3rd year without taking those steps. Just little things.
That's so amazing. We're just bringing the panel to a close, but I really just want to hear what Gareth and Jade's biggest achievements are. So if you guys wrap it up in like a second, that'd be amazing.
Mine would definitely be the Copper Nafana scholarship. My mom was like so proud of me. She was just like unbelievable. And then also me and my friends participated in a criminal mock trial. It was our first one and we ended up winning, and it was just the best thing ever. Like, so yeah, do go for things, you know.
Amazing. And Gareth?
Sorry. My one would be just making it to UCD in itself. No one in my family has ever gone to college. I get the points in the Leaving Cert. I done a PLC, so I came in that route, and just making it to UCD myself, it's given me the confidence to be able to even talk in front of people like this. Would never have happened much before. I'd say my biggest achievement is simply just getting to UCD, I have to say.
That's so amazing. Thank you guys so much. And honestly, as access leaders, we just want to tell every student that you have an incredible story to tell as well, and we can't wait for you to come to UCD. I'm going to hand over to Fiona now to take over.
That was brilliant. Thank you very much. And no technical problems this time. So thanks a million to Grace, Esme, Jade and Gareth. That was brilliant. And just to reassure all our participants today that we're busy planning the student welcome for 2020, and we're working with our access leaders to have a fantastic welcome for all incoming students this year. So I ask all our panelists to come back on screen now, if that's okay. I want to thank everybody for submitting questions, and if you have any other questions that come to mind, please feel free to use the Q&A facility. But I'm now going to hand over to my colleagues Enya Murphy and Enya Murray, our outreach officers, who have been collating all the questions and are going to facilitate the session.
Thanks, Fiona. So questions for Esme, Gareth, Grace and Jade already. Why did you choose UCD over another university? And are any of you from outside Dublin, and how did you find that, if you are?
I'm happy to answer that, if that's okay. I'm from Kildare. I live right beside Maynooth University, and the reason why I decided to go to UCD was it was something different. As weird as that sounds, everyone from my secondary school was going to Maynooth, and I found that you would just meet the same people. So I moved to UCD because it was a chance to get to different people. UCD had a much better access route through courses, so to enter commerce or something, it was much easier to do that through UCD than Maynooth. Commerce itself was a much better degree, I found, in UCD as well than in, say, Maynooth, Galway, because Galway was another option I was looking at, but I found UCD, there was much more options. Like, the campus is much bigger, you had so much more facilities, the students are much nicer. It doesn't have that thing, you know, the students that you imagine when you think of UCD. It's not like that at all. It is a very diverse campus, and I found that I've made friends from all different socio-economic backgrounds that I probably never would have even met if I hadn't gone to UCD, and I found it was probably one of the greatest experiences I've done to date.
Brilliant, thank you, Gareth. So another question, maybe for Jade, actually. So, because you mentioned that you studied accounting at school, and now you're studying it again as part of your degree. So, how different are Leaving Cert subjects in university compared to school?
People kind of sometimes think that you have an advantage because you've already done the subject, and like in certain cases you kind of do. It definitely helped for the accountancy module that I've just done there, but like the whole business, I actually didn't do business for Leaving Cert, so I can't compare it, but you do just, it's manageable and it's more interesting, I definitely think, and especially when it's kind of something that you're already interested in, just learning so much more about it. It's just interesting. I would say it's kind of similar to Leaving, no, it's actually not. No, it's not similar to Leaving Cert, but you definitely kind of have a bit of an advantage if you did like maybe accountancy for like subjects like that. But really it's all new material, and it's, once you kind of like it in secondary school, you'll definitely like it in college, like 100%. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks, Jade. And then you guys mentioned societies and the different facilities in UCD. So could you give us a bit more information about what societies are available or are open to students to join, and the facilities that you guys use? Esme, do you want to take that one, or Grace? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't mind. So with societies, I would say that every student's different. Some of them are really long. The societies, like they do, like the drama soc, for example, they do a lot of plays, so it's very long. Some of them are just more coffee morning meetups. The hours and time in each society is very different, which is good because it facilitates to different types of students and what works for you and your balance. I've gone in and out of different things, and sometimes I've just gone to events with friends and I don't even think I was part of the society, but they let me come along anyway because UCD is really friendly. And yeah, it's kind of harder for us to learn the balance, and I really struggled with that. And don't compare. I would say everyone's different on societies and how it all works, but there's so much support available, and you are independent for yourself, but I think you think that you're just left to your own device, and there you go, which isn't the case. There's so much support, different societies and ways to meet people. So it's not like you're just left there and that's it. Like, you have to ask, but there's so much societies and different supports available. So should I go into any more detail about that? I know I talk really so much, so
that's great, Esme. Thank you. Grace, do you
Yeah.
have anything to add?
Yeah, I guess like there's, in terms of facilities, UCD's got a cinema, a swimming pool, a gym. there's amazing sports facilities. So a lot of people do go on to like the concourse to like play games and everything. And I think it's just whatever you're interested in, you'll find it in UCD. So if it's musical society, if it's karate society, if it's trampoline club, I was part of trampoline club in the first year. It was great crack. Whatever it is you're interested in, you'll find it in the societies. And if you ask around, and if you don't find it, you can start it. I remember like we couldn't find a gospel choir on campus, and so myself and a couple of friends started it. So really, there's room for like anything you want to do on campus.
Brilliant, thanks Grace. So a question for Thomond then. I don't see Thomond. Oh, there you are, Thomond. Is it still possible to apply for the University Access course at the moment to start in September or as soon as possible?
Absolutely, yeah, plenty of places and application online. It's very easy. Anybody who's an adult has filled in many online applications already, and any questions, just contact me or any of the team through our website. Our contact details are all there.
Great. I see a question there. Are there any South American pupils in UCD? So there are 6,000 international students from 121 countries. So we definitely have some South American students studying with us as well. Yeah, so maybe for the students again, a question about the campus being really big. So do you feel overwhelmed, or is it easy to fit in, or any thoughts on that? Anybody?
Grace, you go ahead.
So Gareth, do you want? Okay. Just on that, I think UCD is a massive campus, and when you first start, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed. So I'm not going to say that it's not. However, in dealing with that kind of overwhelming feeling, you settle into like your degree, you settle into the course, you meet new people. Trust me, every first year is probably feeling the exact way you're feeling. So, because anybody that's coming from secondary school, even like open learning, they've probably never been on a massive campus like that. So everyone's feeling the same way. So you don't have to think that you're the only person feeling that way. And honestly, if you can just strike up a conversation with someone, or if you sit beside someone in a lecture hall, say hi to them. If they lose a pen, offer them a pen. Just little things like that. Go to societies, and honestly, by the time you fit in, you wouldn't even realize it. Like, it'll just happen so quickly, and you'll just enjoy yourself. And if you are having trouble fitting in, you can speak to the Access Center, and they'll be able to like offer you more tips on how to do that.
That's it. I have nothing else to add to that. That's perfect.
Nothing else really. I would say though, within your course, sometimes you do go to different buildings, and maybe some courses are different, but I know you're kind of like, you think, oh, it's so big, and it is a big campus, but you kind of only go between the buildings that are kind of related to your course. That's why they do, unless you do an elective. So you're usually not actually going to that many places. Like, I'm always just between Newman and the science building, O'Brien Science, and that's kind of where I am for most of the time. Unless I go to something else or do an elective or whatever, that's kind of, it seems more daunting, but you actually don't go to that many random places. So, yeah.
That's great. Any more questions on you, or are we all answered?
There was one more just about living on campus versus living at home. Gareth, do you want to take that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived at home in first year, and I lived on campus in second year. It relatively depends on how close you are to the campus. I live in Leaksip, so it's not massively far, but in the mornings and evenings with rush hour traffic, it can be a pain. But you can easily avoid that by, say, staying in the library or something. I know that's not ideal, but it is a good way to do a bit of study while avoiding the traffic. It mostly does depend on how far you are. If you're within, say, the commuter belt to Dublin, I'd recommend staying at home, just due to the costs of staying near campus. Like, I think on-campus accommodation for a year, it can be about 10 grand or something. Like, it physically isn't worth the cost of it versus commuting and, say, just taking an extra hour or two in the mornings and evenings.
Right. Brilliant. So just before we finish up, just to again highlight that the Student Welcome 2020, the purpose of that is to give students a welcome to UCD, to get to know new people and be familiar and confident in the campus. And so any of you that are going to be joining us in September, that will be an opportunity to get settled in before things start. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed your taste of UCD, a university for all. If you would like to hear more about the pathways, student life and support, we are running a series of events during June and July, and you'll put up the slide. And all of our details are available on our website, www.ucd.ie/ALL. All our contact details are available there, and we'd be delighted to hear from you. So thank you for coming and joining us today, and we look forward to meeting you again soon.